October meeting of the Richland County Board to order. It's nice to see all your smiling faces. Really nice. And Clerk Kalish, would you please call the roll?
Harrow, Murphy Lopez, Brewer,
Here.
Seep,
Here.
McKee, Runish, Luck, Manning, Gotchel, Glassburner, Rudersdorf, Gentis, Turk, Cosgrove, Frank, Severson,
Present.
Williamson,
Here.
Cooey, Fleming,
Here.
Voice, and McGuire. You have 19 to 21 present. You have a quorum.
Would you, and we have with us tonight Pastor Elfers from St. John Lutheran, and she's going to lead us in an invocation.
Oh, you were Carol's mic.
Let us pray. Good and gracious God, we come before you tonight giving thanks for the people here that lead this county and for the beauty that you've given us and blessed us with in this county. We give you thanks that through Jesus, you give us a way for healing and reconciliation and peace and wisdom, and that you give us wisdom, God, and we thank you for that too. Lord, we just ask tonight that you grant everyone here that wisdom and courage that is needed to make difficult decisions, and we ask that you bless us and with open hearts and open minds to do what is best for this county. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please remain standing. Clerk Kalish will lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible.
Thank you, Derek. We have a 32-point agenda tonight. Actually, I think it's been revised. I think it's 34. Is that correct?
It's 32.
Oh, it is 32. All right, I've got the new one. Sorry. I do have the new one. 32 points. And I would appreciate a motion to let us consider that agenda. Mr. Williamson, and seconded by Mr. McGuire. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? We have an agenda. The minutes of the September 20th meeting, were there any corrections or changes or challenges or nothing? I'm going to declare them then as approved, as published. Now it brings us one of the main things tonight is to consider the 2023 budget. And we will now have a public hearing on the budget. And I know we have a few speakers who want to address it, at least one. Dan, isn't it Dan? Yes. And I'm going to turn the mic over though to Administrator Langrecht to lay out the budget for us. Maybe he can hit the high points.
Okay, in your packets, you're going to see an item tonight that's in there, item number 29, and that's the administrative narrative. Again, item 29 in your packet. It's going to complement then the workbook, item number 0822-07A, the budget 2023. I pulled the narrative up here for you folks viewing at home. The narrative is a kind of a brief summary or a narrative of what is all put into a very complex budget that you folks are accustomed to approving. To kind of review on it, moving through the first page of the narrative, a review of the budget objectives, you'll see in here the different items that was sought out to accomplish with the 2023 budget. We hope to address the levy by maintaining compliance with the imposed limits by state statute. Services, it was the intent to, within an operating levy, protect effective delivery of essential services and maintain discretionary services, understanding that evaluation and reductions, balancing may have to come in play in 2024. And then it was also kind of predetermined that we were going to be using operational gap fill of the utilization of ARPA funds. Moving into the second page of the report or the narrative, you'll see that also the goals included capital improvements and capital outlays, again, within the operational levy limits, being able to tend to those needs without leaving future county boards with broken systems that may cause drastic increases. We also had goals in there to continue with our short-term note borrowing in order to complete our capital projects, and then understanding that we're going to potentially here in the near future enter into a radio tower project and borrow up to $8.5 million. Other goals included preservation of undesignated general fund to maintain recommendation from our auditors and from our guidances on making sure that we have rainy day funds put aside. Wages and benefits to meet our projected increases and adjustments for health insurance costs, to meet incremental adjustments towards hopefully reaching at one point the 2018 Carlson study in meeting market data, and to adjust wages in response to increased cost of livings. Additional challenges that were discussed at the onset of the budgeting process included, we knew that in the 2022 budget, we utilized $88,000 of undesignated general fund, approximately $300,000 in contingency fund, and we asked Pine Valley for an additional $2,500 on top of $300,000 that we usually would to fill this year's budget, as well as incorporating intentions of incorporating land information grant reduction of $30,000. So in trying to meet those goals, our levy one, we have met. Our services, we have met, knowing that we have to still continue through our prioritization process. Capital improvements and outlays, we know that we still have many existing capital improvements that need to be addressed, but we are still striving to do those. With our benefits, we're transitioning to the Employee Trust Fund Health Insurance Program. I feel that we've met those. In our wages, we continue to strive. We've allocated for a cost of living increase of 5%. Pine Valley Ambulance receiving an additional 2% on petition of recruitment and retention challenges, and preserving our undesignated general fund for a contingency we have met. Moving into the bottom of page 3, you'll see then the process and the preliminary guidance. The process that we moved through for establishing a 2023 operational budget this year included first preliminary budget, and then we moved into departments review with the administrator. We had presentation then to the Finance and Personnel Committee, and having our public hearing here tonight, and then hopefully adoption shortly after in the agenda. Moving into page 4 of the narrative, you'll see that other items that we're trying to capture in here was the initial preliminary budget that was presented to Finance and Personnel included a budget operation gap of $882,425.60. So that's on how much anticipated ARPA funds that we anticipated to use at the onset of the budget process. We then moved into the budget capital projects adjustments, where we engaged in many lengthy conversations, Finance and Personnel, and with rules and strategic planning regarding capitals. The outcomes of those discussions, we arrived at a 5% increase for employees, a 7% increase Pine Valley Ambulance. Our health insurance, as mentioned previously, we were transitioning to the Employee Trust Fund Group Health Insurance, their high deductible plan. Health and Human Services saw a reduction in their budget for adult and youth placements, institutional placements. Highway saw a consolidation of shop and parts positions for elimination of an FTE. Sheriff has anticipated increases in revenues for shared revenues through sanctions. Child support, there is an addition of one part-time position for clerical support. MIS, we've incorporated a new county tech budget to separate our provided, or what are seen as our county-wide services from our MIS kind of end user budgets. So we've incorporated a tech budget now. We also have a housing authority, working with the housing authority director to bring back about $75,000 to $80,000 in funds that is from a defunct CDBG program that we plan on bringing in, and visualize using that and maintaining our county partnership with Richland Economic Development moving into 2023. And we're also incorporating a 1-week holdback for several of our departments to for our paycheck withholdings. That'll allow us time to actually complete a time card and get it processed and sent to the bank. We have several departments right now where we're paying like with a 1-week withholding, which means that in order to get it processed, we're still kind of guessing on what our time is going to be for that second week, and then obligation then to correct that time card if we, if there's benefit time used or incurred overtime or things of that nature. So moving into the bottom of page 5, start talking then about, so after we kind of addressed all these types of issues, the budget that's presented to you tonight still arrives at $524,088.07 to be filled with ARPA funds. I'm going to say that again. The structural deficit, if you will, is $524,088.07 that we're filling with ARPA funds. And those are one-time funds. That leaves finance and personnel and myself and all of you folks with about $1 million or so of unused ARPA funds that we still have allocated for operational expenses moving into 2024 and touching into 2025. But once those monies are spent off, then we don't have this fill, which is, of course, we know this, and that's why we're also engaged in our directive and our referendum efforts to figure out how we're going to close that gap. 2023 budget impacts, review on here. So the arrival of the 2023 budget, the total levy is going to be $10,453,967.02. That is up about a 0.64% increase. In kind of showing a projection over the last several years, you'll see the increase coming in 2022 into 2021. That is when we engaged in some debt services, where we took out the $2.9 million to cover some of our capital expenses, and also began engaging in short-term notes. So that's where you're seeing the increase from 2020 into 2021. Our mill rate in equalized value of our properties is also trended for you on the top of page 6. And moving into short-term financial and capital improvements, of which be kind of the next item here, and voting to move on with Carol. In previous meeting, we took action to establish an authorization resolution for the county to borrow up to $1,050,000. These are the identified projects which we have arrived at through rules and strategic planning and through finance and personnel. Pie chart is kind of put in there as a visual on seeing where the allocations are going. Future financial challenges, beginning on page 7, entering in this year that we know the conditions remain in the county, that we still have financial challenges arriving from our aging infrastructure, state-imposed levy limits, increased expenditures results from the rising cost of health insurance, benefits, cost of living, materials, and services. While the county is taking significant actions in directing departments and oversight committees to identify future options to reduce levy dependency and to make recommendations for possible referendum, the 2023 operation budget is balanced again on $524,088.07 of ARPA funds. It's estimated that the remaining balance of ARPA funds available for your use up through 2025 is $1,149,757.48. Other challenges, we know that of our decreased census, we have a reduction in populations. We have an emergency radio tower project that is underway. Looking at, again at authorization and up to $8.5 million in order to complete that project. Deferred maintenance on buildings, as we've touched upon, we have quite a portfolio of different buildings. Continuing to work with finance and personnel and rules and strategic planning on prioritizing those and incorporating next year a matrix on trying to better understand the urgency and the impacts on those projects in a more comprehensive kind of a plan. Healthcare staffing, recruitment, and retention remains a problem. We're constantly underneath the threat of if we don't have enough staffing, we may have to close a wing of our nursing home, which impacts our revenue flow. Prioritization directives and resolutions, as we've mentioned, we're very much engaged in bringing those directive responses back to finance and personnel, and then forming a possible referendum question for you folks to consider. And then next year, also looking potentially at a budget format, be looking to work with folks from Finance and Personnel Committee next first quarter of next year, and trying to see if we want to evaluate our current layout of our budget and the mechanics and the feasibilities on arriving at a new budget format. Acknowledgements for this year. I'd like to again acknowledge the dedication, hard work, and commitment of our Richland County Board of Supervisors, our organizational partners, our department heads, and our Richland County employees. The level of professionalism and dedication displayed through an uncomfortable process of evaluation has been commendable. While we all harbor our personal views of what the final model of service delivery should look like, it's my perspective that overwhelming unity remains in acknowledging that change is needed and must be pursued. Richland County remains blessed with many supportive community partners and has a fine following of citizen officials and volunteers. I remain confident that together the county will continue in a worthy goal of local governance for the purposes of peace and prosperity. And if I can, Mr. Chair, do you want me to run through the summary, the workbook, while I'm on the floor here?
Yes, I think that's appropriate.
Okay, so if you look then at item number 08-2207A, your budget worksheet, I'll kind of skim through the highlights here. It should be a document that you're familiar with in format. The front page captures the summary of all the expenditures and your revenues that are found out through the rest of the workbook. The main number again that you're arriving at is, first one is on line 28 there. You'll see the 2022 tax levy for 2023. And then you're going to see the different applicable fund balances that are applied towards it, and then your equalized TID value, TID in and TID out of your equalized property value, and your mill rates at the bottom of that page. Flipping into page 2, we'll run down to the next significant item that I want to bring to your attention on page 3. Looking at lines number 60 and 61, you'll see correction, number 59 and 60, you'll see significant increases in ambulance service fund and collectible ambulance billing. Those items are increased with the intentions of more expenditures and balanced by more revenues, as the ambulance is hoping to step up with another full-time team to be able to conduct more transports. Next major item I want to bring your attention to is on page number 7. I'm sorry, page number 6. Your expenditures. Let me scroll down to it. Don't have these page numbers. There we go. Page 6, page 6, page 6. 4, 6. Okay, page 6, you're looking for expenditures here. We incorporated into the budget in lines number 189 and 190, you're going to see the arrival of the ARPA funds for broadband, and that's our matching funds for the expansion of broadband up in Casanova, as well as then capturing here your short-term notes for capital projects. It's an added expense, but then are offset by additional revenues. Next item of interest on page 7, if you look at line number 17 on the top, state shared revenues. This is the one that we talk about a lot in ad hoc committee. Our budgeted amount for this year was $1,219,000. That increased to $1,230,000, or approximately a 0.89% increase in shared levy, shared revenues coming down from the state of Wisconsin. Next items that I'd like to bring to your attention is on page 9. Page 9, line number 104 is where you see the offset as previously indicated with the ambulance expenditures. It's the increase in the amount of ambulance fees. The idea is that there's going to be more transports, so more revenues generated in through ambulance. Next item on page 10, bottom of page 10, again, talking about our general revenues. There's some additions there. Items number 153 through items 159. Okay, so on 153, you're going to see the addition of Bear Creek solar energy credits. That's the energy credits that'll be coming in from the completion of the solar field. You'll also see then, as mentioned in there, additional revenues brought in this year from Housing Authority legacy funds brought over, the capital projects borrowing, provided that it's passed tonight to offset the expenditures that we previously reviewed. You'll see the American Rescue Plan ARPA funds added in there. There's your $425,000, which has been mentioned a couple times. Then a revenue tracking, then the expenditures for the broadband expansion. The three lines below that then is where we're capturing. We're not using the general fund surplus applied as we did the previous year. We have a contingency fund that we had designated for this year that we're not allocating. And then you'll see the reduction in the Pine Valley surplus applied from 504,996 this year to 300,000. The following pages past that, then you'll see operation revenue maintenances for the highway department. And then the final page 13 is the debt schedule, bringing your attention to line number 13. The promissory notes for Pine Valley will reach maturity on March 1st of 2023. So it's very big, very complicated. I hope my summary helped to bring some clarity to it in matching up the narrative and the intentions where it's arriving in the paper document. That being said, I'll turn it back to yourself, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Administrator Langrick. We are in the middle of a public hearing, so I'm going to invite the public to comment. And do we have a list of presenters or not? No? Okay, we'll take you as you come. Dan, please identify yourself and
Good
tell us
evening,
what
my
you
name
need.
is Dan Geiderschak. I'm president of Richland Center, have been for quite a number of years. Thank you very much, Administrator, for the administrative summary. It's very concise. You did a lot of work on it. Appreciate that. It explains more than what was written in the Richland Observer, the budget. Purpose of my visit here tonight is to make my views known about supporting our law enforcement, especially the Sheriff's Department. A number of years ago, when I was participating with one of the coalitions here in Richland County, a very good friend of mine told me that over the years that he'd been involved in law enforcement, which is about 30 years, he had noticed that the first, second, and third generation of people that have been involved in criminal activity were constantly showing up as participating in additional criminal activities here in this county. So that got me thinking about the number of critical incidents that we've experienced here in Richland County just in the past 4 years. Many of you are probably familiar with the Joseph Jakubowski situation, where he had a large cache of weapons that he had stolen from a Janesville gun shop, and he was in a makeshift camp. There were 100 investigators involved in trying to capture him at that time. Also, you may recall a person by the name of Leonard Perfetti from Madison. He had been involved in a pursuit from Vernon County. He had wrecked 3 squad cars from Richland County, and intentionally, it was a crash-filled chase over 2 counties. And the comment made at that time, it's a wonder somebody didn't get shot. The point I'm trying to make here is that I listen very carefully to what's going on in the community. And when I hear the term 1060, which is squad in vicinity, it makes me feel a little bit more comfortable. Also, what I hear is out of position, meaning that the squad is not able to respond to a crisis situation, such as a erratic driver, perhaps going on Highway 14, and the officer is located somewhere up by Viola. So understand that you can't be in two places at once. There has to be priorities, which is already occurring in our county for the number of calls that have to be identified as critical situations. I'm particularly interested in what the responses will be from the ad hoc committee for their report that will be finalized, I believe, on October 31st. Now, my background in many different capacities has been involved in general management of a multi-million-dollar manufacturing company. And one thing I learned was to take a look at the Pareto principle, which is an 80-20 rule. It states that 80% of all the outcomes are derived from 20% of the causes. Now, if we have a situation going on where we have repeat incidences which have to be addressed, then maybe we should be taking a close look at that from where the judicial departments have to become involved. Also, do you believe that we are getting the support from the federal government? Intrusion that we have with drugs into our county. It's time that we start to take a look at Article 1, Section 10 of our Constitution. If we have an invasion going on, then the state has a right to step in to declare that we have an invasion going on and to make sure that it stops. How are we going to do that? Now, the breakdown of our civil authority occurs because of the attitudes and actions of people. And I have lived in and have been involved in conflicts for some of my adult life. I know what it's like to be subjected to gunfire and also hostile situations. It's no picnic in the park, folks. Also,
Dan, can you sum it up
Yes, I
here
will.
for us?
I will make one comment here, Mr. Brewer.
Please do that.
Yes, sir. Today it was reported that out of the 11 million eligible workforce, there was about 7 million of layabouts, they call them, that are at home playing computer games, watching TV, and being supported by their girlfriends. Perhaps it's time to take a look at what we have here in Richland County for the outlay of our health and human services. In the last report that I saw in the Wisconsin Blue Book was that we ranked number 3 in the expenditures just on Medicaid and Badger care. How about taking a look at that? Make some serious cuts. Thank you for your time.
You bet.
One other final comment, Mr. Brewer.
Yes, sir.
Over the past several months, I have sent out emails describing thoughts that I had about taking other actions such as preventative maintenance. Mr. Langrick touched on it briefly by stating that they're going to prioritize the maintenance projects, which I think is a good step. Again, thank you.
Thank you. And Dan, as we go forward, setting the budget for 2024 and beyond, that kind of input will be invaluable. So right now we're pretty set on 23. No tremendous cuts to law enforcement in that budget, but going forward, yes. So anyone else from the public wish to comment? Okay, we're not taking action on the budget right at this moment because our next agenda item will be a resolution awarding the sale of and $50,000 taxable general obligation promissory notes. Mr. Kalish, can you read that, please?
So you should all have a copy of the most recent resolution provided by Carol and her folks that came in this afternoon. So it's rather lengthy. It's 25 pages. So Mr. Chair, if it's okay to defer to Ms. Worth to carry out this task, that'd be great.
Yes, and with us tonight is Carol Worth from Public Finance Professionals. You all know her. She's been here before. She's made the long trip over from Brookfield. So Carol, I'm going to turn the mic over to you.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'm here to cover, we have two handouts tonight. One of them is a packet. The other one is a booklet. The booklet is what we call the prospectus on the county that was used to distribute into the municipal bond market to solicit investors to purchase the county's $1,050,000 notes. So I'm going to go back to the handout and look at the background. The last time I was here was on September 20th. The county board took action on what was called an initial resolution, which gave the county board authority to do a borrowing at a later date. So today is that date. This resolution that you are considering is to borrow money. So the first paragraph under background talks about the purposes that the money can be spent on. This is also included in the resolution itself. So the official purpose language reads that it's for capital improvement projects, including highway improvements, equipment for the sheriff's department, courthouse maintenance projects, technology capital improvements, facility improvements, including blacktop and roof repairs, the replacement of overhead doors on the maintenance garage, toilet improvements, and the purchase of air handlers and sand filters. Okay, so there's no specific dollar amounts tied to each of those purposes. So that is a feature of doing general obligation notes, is that means that the funds can be used for the actual cost of each of those projects. Okay, the capital improvement projects were removed from the operating budget. This is the third year that we are doing this type of borrowing that creates room inside the levy limits for operating expenses. The total amount of the principal and interest, which will all be repaid on March 1st of 2023. So these are out for a very short period of time. But the total amount of principal and interest is included in your tax levy, along with your other general obligation debt. So on September 20th, when I presented my report, it was a report that was given to the Finance and Personnel Committee on September 6th. At that time, it included all of this information. In addition, we projected the interest rate in the bond market, which at that time was 4%. So again, that's going back to September 6th. So as you know, there has been additional market changes as a result of the Fed taking action at their open markets committee meetings in September. And there is going to be another meeting next week, November 1st and 2nd. The market has been going back and forth with regard to speculating if the Fed is going to continue to raise rates or if the Fed will reduce that action out of fear of crashing the economy. Well, as of last Friday, the market decided that the Fed was going to continue. And they decided that the Fed was going to continue at the rate of 0.75% increase coming up now in November, another 0.5% in December, and another 0.5% next June. So that is what drove interest rates extremely high. And we now are at a point where there's always been a lot of volatility in the markets, but right now it's made sales, bond sales this week very difficult with regard to getting bids from underwriters. And I'm sure on the same side, investors, right? Because if the market is thinking that the Fed is going to raise rates, they're not going to wait for that to happen. They basically say, thank you very much, I want that right now. So that converts into higher interest rates now based on the consensus that rates will continue to rise, okay? So that's just a little background in terms of what's happened since the last time I appeared before you. So the second page of my handout just tells you how we prepared to go to the marketplace. Again, we coordinated the preparation of the legal documents with Quarles and Brady, which is your bond attorney. We prepared that official statement, and that is required by the Securities and Exchange Commission because we are soliciting investors. And we also prepared and distributed what's called a notice of sale, which is several pages of instructions to underwriters telling them when to place a bid, how to place a bid, okay? So today, we received 6 bids. And I will tell you, we did everything in our power to get those 6 bids. As of yesterday noon, we had no bids. So that is very unusual. Again, based on what happened on Friday, Monday was an awful day in the market. So in the afternoon, I mean, we kept contacting people in all ways possible, and we got 6 bids today. So we're very pleased that at least we did get that type of attention. So with that, you can see that our winning bid came from New York, from the firm of Piper Sandler and Company. The true interest rate, is 5.24%. You can see that the final last bid is at a 7.32%. You can, so I think that kind of demonstrates the amount of volatility that is in the marketplace right now. Okay, so with that, right below that is what we call the final sources and uses of funds. The source of funds comes from 2 places: the amount of the bond notes that you are selling and the reoffering premium, which comes from the investors. The use of those funds is, first of all, it says underwriter's discount. This is how much that the underwriter is keeping of that reoffering premium to pay himself. That's his compensation. So they did a very fair bid with regard to that compensation. I've seen some very high compensation numbers yesterday in the marketplace. So this is a very, very fair bid for them to be working for. Cost of issuance is going to be a total of $19,100. That would be basically ARPI and bond counsel. Project, the rest of the money, $3 million. This will be $1,030,900 is going to go into the project account and used for the projects, and then a deposit to debt service in the small amount of $94.50, which represents the remaining dollars from the premium that was not used by the underwriter for compensation. Okay. The third page, the third page at the top, it's the repayment schedule. So the county will receive the money on November 22nd. So that's the day that interest will begin. It will all be repaid on March 1st of 23. The principal amount and the interest of $15,159. So all of that gets paid off on that day. The right below that is called a pricing schedule, and the important part is in the center under the yield column. It shows you what the investor is receiving for this short-term note, and so that yield is a 4.37%. Okay, in the past when I came here, it was like 3.65%. So that is where, that represents how much the market has moved. The price column is over 100. That means that the investor is buying these as premium bonds, and that's what generates that coupon or interest rate of 5.25%. Okay, and again, they do that so that the underwriter keeps a portion of that premium for his compensation. So the resolution that you are considering requires a majority vote of the members present, okay? And this locks in the interest rate and tax levy, and it officially awards the notes to Piper Sandler. The closing is November 22nd. That's the day the county gets all of the money at one time. And again, the $1,030,900 goes into a project account. The $94.50 of premium has to go into a debt service account. Because these are taxable, there are no federal arbitrage rules that apply to these notes. So what that means to the county is that there is no time limit on how long you have to spend the notes. You can invest the money until it's needed at any yield that you can get. Okay, so there's no reporting requirements, no restrictions, and no time limit on how long you have to spend the money. So following that is the resolution that you're acting on tonight. And again, the first page pretty much recites what I just went through. Talks about the purpose language in the first whereas. It talks about the statute section that you have authority to do the borrowing. It talks about the fact that we did go out with a notice of sale to the underwriters to solicit bids. And they also include that information at the back of this resolution. And the second page is basically saying, again, that you have the authority to approve the resolution that awards the notes to the winning bidder. They call that the purchaser. And the term of the notes just tells you the date that the interest starts and when it's going to be repaid. Continuing on to pages 3 and 4, again, this is somewhat what I would call boilerplate language that's in every general obligation borrowing resolution, where it says you're going to levy a tax, you're going to collect the tax, you're going to put it in a debt service fund. The money is going to be borrowed and go into a project fund, which they refer to as a borrowed money fund. It does say that the chairperson and clerk are authorized to sign documents, which are going to be coming from bond counsel yet for the closing. And page 5 also talks about the fact that you're going to make principal and interest to a place called Depository Trust Company, that the official statement is approved for that distribution to the investors. And the page 6 says that you're going to provide information to the marketplace called continuing disclosure, and we do take care of that for the county. So the resolution itself ends on page 7, and then after page 7 is a number of exhibits. So I will just take you very quickly through. Exhibit A is the notice of sale. It's a long document that, again, these are the instructions to the bidders. So that goes to page 4, and then that is followed by the next exhibit, which is the bid form. That's how the underwriters place their bid. Exhibit B is the bid tabulation, which you've seen already. Exhibit C is the bid form that's signed by the winning bidder. And this is the contract between the county and Piper for locking in that interest rate. And then Exhibit D1 is the pricing schedule, which you have seen already at the beginning of the report. Exhibit D is their payment schedule, which you have seen. And Exhibit E is just a copy of how the actual note will look once it's prepared by bond counsel. All right, I'm ready.
Thank you, Carol, for explaining and describing the resolution. It is resolution number 22-106. And you've heard the explanation, the language. What's your pleasure? Mr. McKee, seconded by Mr. Cooey. Any further discussion necessary?
Mr.
Mr.
Chair, I've
Reyes.
got a question. Carol, on section 16 of the resolution, does it look like the purchaser is going to require bond insurance? And if so, how much would that cost?
No bond insurance.
Thank you.
Good question, Greenwich. Means you read the thing. Great. Anyone else? Mr. McGuire?
Amazing amount of difference in the cost. Cost of the, what's the reason?
Well, that's driven strictly by the volatility in the market. And yesterday, when, like I said, by noon, we had no bids. It's because when they're bidding on an issue, they try to pre-sell to customers in advance so that they don't put in a guess and then they lose money. So what you're seeing is some of them are putting in a guess. So I would guess that the yield isn't much different to the investor, but what is different is how much money they have built in it to compensate themselves. So that if they don't have a buyer right away and the market doesn't allow them to sell it at the level they guessed at, they can lose some money and still make something.
You said the key word was built-in security.
Yes.
Building in security.
Building in risk. That's what it is.
Okay, anyone else? All right, I think we're ready to vote on this. It's something we do I think this is the third year, fourth?
Third year for this
Third
type,
year.
correct.
Okay, short-term borrowing, let's do the things that we need to do, capitalize. All those in favor of resolution 22-106 signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The resolution is adopted. Thank you, Carol.
Thank you very much.
Bring money with you next time.
I will. I'm
Okay,
gonna go back and fill up the soup.
thank you. Now, we can address adopting the Richland County budget for 2023. And we have that before us. It was explained. And we saw the document that as published in the Richland Observer. And I don't know what more we need to say, Administrator Langford.
Steal Clerk Kalish's role here, Resolution 22-107. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that the 2023 budget includes revenues from county sales tax in the estimated amount of $1,350,000, and be it therefore resolved that the sum of $10,453,967.02 will be used and hereby is levied upon all taxable property in Richland County for the county purposes for the year 2022. Be it further resolved that the resolution shall be effective immediately upon its passage and publication. Mr. Chair.
Thank you. You've heard the resolution. What's your pleasure?
I move for adoption, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. C, you gotcha. I'm gonna take Mr. Turk second. Any more questions? Any more comments? That's Linda, Mrs. Gentis. No.
Wait, there I'm on.
There
Okay.
you are.
I don't know if this is the right time for this question. In the narrative, Mr. Langrick, it said on page 4, I'm on the Housing Authority, and we had transfer of funds over. And I want to know if those are those funds for the Housing Authority for the use of maintaining the county's partnership with economic development. Did the Finance Committee decide to move those funds and make that, and instead of going into the general fund? I'm just not sure about that.
So the money's going to come, working with the director there,
Yeah,
again, about $75,000 to $80,000 that are going to be brought over. It'll come into the general fund, and I'm visualizing that is talked about coming forward into this budget. It's visualized that that money is there to continue our partnership into 2023. So it's going to come into the bucket. And again, the idea that we need housing and pushing Jason and economic development and prioritizing housing as an issue seemed like an appropriate use of bringing those funds back into the county. Does that answer your question,
Yeah,
Supervisor Gentis?
very much in favor of it going for housing. I thought this was going toward salaries for that, the economic development.
It's to cover the general budget. So it's not an additional amount that's going to be attributed onto it. It's seen as offsetting levy expenses to use that fungibility for other services.
Okay, and who decided that it would go there?
It's coming back into the bucket. So if you want to visualize it going to a different purpose, you can,
Okay.
but then you're using levy then to
Okay, I
pay
just
for
was
economic
curious.
development.
Okay,
So,
thank
yep.
you.
Anyone else?
I just have a
Yes.
question on the resolution. That second to last, be it further resolved with the 10,453,000, should it say for purposes for year 2023, or is it supposed to say 2022?
We'll be taxing folks as in 2022
Okay,
for expenditures in
okay,
2023.
thank you.
Good question.
All right, I'm gonna call for a vote on the budget for Richland County budget for 2023. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The budget is adopted. Thank you. Takes us down to item number 9, an ordinance relating to a parcel belonging to FS Adventures LLC in the town of Westford. Mr. Kalish.
The ordinance number 22-17, that the following described 5.58 acre parcel belonging to FS Adventures in the town of Westford is hereby rezoned from the general agricultural and forestry district to the agricultural and residential district. This ordinance shall be effective on October 26th of 2022 and was being offered to you by the Land and Zoning Standing Committee on October 3rd of 2022.
You've heard the resolution. What's your pleasure? Mr. Cooey, a second. I need a second. Mr. Turk, I got again. His hand's coming right out there. Richard, so I see him. I'll get you next time. Okay, any questions? Do we need some background on this? Probably. Mr. Bidwell,
Well-
yes, there is.
A question, Mr. Chairman.
Can we hear the background first, Mr. Seep, or?
Yes,
Okay, Mr. Bindle's got the mic. You can address this right after he speaks.
The applicant is splitting off the house and the garage from the rest of his land.
House and garage, did you hear that, Don?
yes, I did. My question was, is it, standard procedure not to identify the principals?
The principal and FS
Yes,
Ventures?
the principals.
I'll defer to corporate counsel.
It's not particularly relevant. The corporate entity is the one who owns the property. They would have a registered agent. I could look it up on DFI real quickly if it's important, but I don't see any need to identify the agent.
All right, thank you.
Corporate citizen. All right, you've heard it, the background. All those in favor of this resolution signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The resolution is, or ordinance, excuse me, the ordinance is adopted. An ordinance relating to a parcel belonging to Don and Elaine Wanless in the town of Marshall. Mr. Kalish.
This will be ordinance number 22-18, that the following described 10.6 acre parcel belonging to Don and Aline Wanless in the town of Marshall is hereby rezoned from the general agriculture and forestry district to the agriculture and residential district. This ordinance shall be effective on October 26th of 2022 and is being offered to you by the Land and Zoning Standing Committee on October 3rd of 2022.
You've heard the ordinance? Yes. That guy back there. Mr. Reddish, seconded by Mr. Cosgrove. And could we have some background, please?
The background on this parcel is that it's being split and it would be a new building site for a family member.
New building site for Don and Elaine. Okay.
Family member.
All those in favor of this ordinance signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ordinance is adopted. Do we have any petitions received since the last county board session?
There will be a petition by Marty and Trudy Kenyon to rezone 3 acres from ag forestry to residential 2, section 20, Buena Vista.
And do you have any recommended for denial by the Zoning and Land Information Committee?
None.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Bindle. Number 13, a resolution commemorating the retirement of Kenneth Moe from the Sheriff's Department. Mr. Kalish.
This will be resolution number 22-108. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that the county board hereby expresses its sincere appreciation for the 32 years of dedicated service of Kenneth Moe, and the board wishes him a long and happy retirement. Be it further resolved that the county clerk shall send a copy of this resolution to Mr. Moe at his home address, which is on file in the county clerk's office. Be it further resolved that this resolution shall be effective immediately upon its passage and publication, and is being offered to you by the Public Safety Standing Committee on October 7th.
You've heard the resolution. What's your pleasure, Mr. Manning, seconded by Mr. McKee. This is Ken Moe. It's going to be a big personality missing. So I wish him well, and I had no idea he was near retirement. All those in favor of this resolution signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Happy retirement, Ken. Number 14, a resolution approving the spending of Department of Justice COVID Safety Justice Center Needs 2021 grant funding. Mr. Kalish.
This will be resolution number 22-109. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that approval is hereby granted for the Public Safety Standing Committee and the sheriff to purchase the above listed items in the amount not to exceed $107,102. Be it further resolved that the total cost of carrying out this resolution in the amount of $107,102 shall be paid from Fund 10, Department of Justice COVID Safety Justice Center Needs 2021 grant, and additional funds from the Sheriff's Department computer maintenance and new equipment lines split evenly. Be it further resolved that this resolution shall be effective immediately upon its passage and publication, and is being offered to you by the Public Safety Standing Committee on October 7th.
Thank you. You've heard the resolution. What's your pleasure? Yes. And do I have a second? Ms. Luck? All right, this is grant money. Do we have to put up money to get it, or someone explain this?
Oh, go ahead, Aaron.
Aaron? Chief Deputy Aaron?
This was a non-matching grant. It's for COVID funds that Stacy put in for. With this grant, we are purchasing a training simulator along with a lot of training supplies to help keep the jail and other offices inside the courtroom cleaner. I know the maintenance department purchased some items too for this, along with some other like door opening equipment to keep the building a cleaner and safer place.
Right, thank you. Good use of those funds, I'd say. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The resolution is adopted. A resolution approving the Sheriff's Department applying for and accepting a Chapter 2 DMA PSAP grant from the Wisconsin Department of Military Affairs. Mr. Kalish.
I think we skipped one.
Again.
We're in number 15.
Oh, I'm sorry. All right, we'll take 15 first.
Okay, so this will be resolution number 22-110. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that approval is hereby granted to the Sheriff's Department to apply for and accept a grant from the Wisconsin Department of Military Affairs for improving 911 mapping, and be it further resolved that approval is hereby granted for the grant funds to be spent in accordance with the terms of the grant, and the county administrator is hereby authorized to sign on behalf of the county any documents needed to carry out this resolution. Be it further resolved that this resolution shall be effective immediately upon its passage and publication, and this is being offered to you by the Public Safety Standing Committee on October 18.
Thank you. You've heard the resolution. What's your pleasure? Mr. Reinish, Ms. Luck, seconds. Another grant. Is this strings attached? No. Some strings attached?
We have some match with this one, Mr. Chair.
Some match, okay. Gentleman's coming forward to speak, perhaps? Yes.
Yeah, so this grant would be an 80-20 match for us. The sheriff's department will be, we had borrowed money for 3 squads, not gonna be able to do that. We're gonna get 2 and then use approximately like 49,000 towards this match. And this would be to update the 911 systems throughout the county.
Why can't we get the squads? Just can't get them, right?
Well, the costs of the squads have significantly gone up, as has other things. So we originally budgeted for 3. We're finding out that to buy the 2 squads and all the equipment to go in them, it's gonna cost more than we had budgeted for. So we were gonna use this money that had already been borrowed and approved to match this 20% of this grant that we need to match on the 80-20%.
And we have no problem, Administrator Langrick, switching that?
We do not. It falls within the resolution language for utilization.
Right, thank you. Sounds like good thinking. You've heard the explanation, you know what the grant is. What's your pleasure? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Oppose. Okay. We've accepted that resolution. Now we have the next one. And basically, it reads the same, except it's Chapter 2 DMA PSAP grant. Mr. Kalish.
This will be resolution number 22-111. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that approval is hereby granted to the Sheriff's Department to apply for and accept a grant up to $500,000 from the Wisconsin Department of Military Affairs for improving 911 services, and be it further resolved that this grant shall be is hereby granted for the funds to be spent in accordance with the terms of the grant, and the county administrator is hereby authorized to sign on behalf of the county any documents needed to carry out this resolution. This resolution is being offered to you by the Public Safety Standing Committee on October 18th of 2022.
Thank you, Mr. Kalish. You've heard the resolution. What's your pleasure? Mrs. Glassbrenner, seconded by Mr. Frank. And can you identify yourself, please?
Yeah, sorry, Lieutenant Mike says Sheriff's Department, and I'm sorry, there was a confusion there. This is the grant that's 20% match that we have. with this grant.
See?
Yeah.
I'm not the only.
So there was a little confusion there, but this is a similar grant. This is to mainly hire contractors to get our mapping correctly for the county in order for us to even qualify for these other grants, so it's much needed.
It's the kind of help I always hoped we'd get for the towers, but of course, that wasn't forthcoming. You've heard the language, the resolution. What's your pleasure? Or, no, we've got to get it before us. We do, we have it before us.
We do.
It is before us. So we're going to vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. You got it. A resolution approving the payment for a new K-9 and required training from donated funds. Mr. Kalish.
This will be resolution number 22-112. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that approval is hereby granted to the Public Safety Standing Committee and the Sheriff to pay Von Leach and Kennels, Inc. In the amount of $19,255. Be it further resolved, the total cost of carrying out this resolution in the amount shall be paid directly from the Richland County K-9 Fund, and be it further resolved that this resolution shall be effective immediately upon its passage and publication, and this is being offered to you by the Public Safety Standing Committee on October 7th.
You've heard the resolution. What's your pleasure? Mr. Williamson, seconded by Ms. Luck. And I'll bet Mike Sizz is going to talk about this one.
I bet if you would like me to, I'll do so. If you follow our Facebook page, we actually just posted today that they just got back and completed training last Friday. This money was to purchase a new multi-purpose canine for the county. And again, like it said, it was through all donated funds, which both of our canine funds are. So this paid for the dog itself, which is roughly $12,000, maybe a little more, paid for the training, the lodging, the food, everything for the initial 6-week training. So that's what this $19,000 was, the initial purchase.
All right, you've heard the resolution. Mr. Manning, Mike, I think Gary's got a question here. Speak into the mic, please, Gary.
So the question was, how many dogs do we have now? We have Canine Rambo, which is the canine that I currently have. He's getting closer to the end of his career. So we wanted to start a second dog, which is Canine Aaron, that just got back. So we have one that is up and running when Canine Rambo retires. Again, it's all donated funds, so we are going to be doing some fundraisers coming up. We have some ideas with that. We did the 5K this fall, and everything is based on donations. So the city also recently purchased the canine Teddy, who started in February. So we now have 3 canines in the county, all similarly trained.
Thank you. And I'm gonna call on you again. Tell us, how do they do? Are they invaluable? Do they help out?
They are invaluable. Obviously, a canine's sense of smell is much, much better than ours, hundreds of thousands of times better. One of our ways, and this gentleman over here brought up the drug problem in the county, in the state, in the nation. It's one of our best tools to try to fight that. We are using the dogs nightly, multiple times a night, to get them on traffic stops. They're backup for our officers, for our deputies in a county where we don't have a lot of staffing. So they're invaluable.
And that identification by the dog is evidence. I mean,
It is probable cause to search a vehicle.
probable cause.
Yep. So when we have a canine alert to the odor of illegal narcotics in a vehicle, we are then allowed to search the vehicle, which we cannot develop on our own.
Right.
Well, in very few circumstances.
Thanks.
Yep. Yes.
Speak into the mic, Julie. I'm sorry.
My question is, do the dogs have vests? Do we have vests for the dogs like the officers have?
Yeah, so very good question. So there's a nonprofit organization called Wisconsin Vest a Dog. I believe her name's Donna Morgan. She provides vests, canine bulletproof, stab-resistant vests for every dog in the state. That's all donated funds. She also provides first aid kits for the dogs and hot pop systems. And what those are, they are systems in your squad car that if your heating or air fails, it will set off an alarm, it'll roll down the windows, and eventually it'll pop the door. So it's protecting our investment. So Donna is great, very good nonprofit organization. She's supplied a lot to us and all the canines around the state.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, Carrie Severson.
Mr. Chair, I think my personal opinion, that the main thing why we have the canine is not only do we combat the drug situation, but it's missing persons. And that dog can track a missing person that's been lost. And I believe that Canine Rambo has found somebody.
Yeah, correct. Canine Rambo's found a few. We have Canine Lucy from the Richland Center Police Department, which is a bloodhound. That's also kind of a personal and department-owned dog. She has located missing individuals. That is something we do quite often.
So
whether it's a group home runaway, missing child, or a suspect that flees, could be dangerous to the community.
And for temporary time, we now have 3 of them, or 4 probably. So that's the main thing.
all right, do we have a resolution on the floor? Yes, Mr. McGuire.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, I may have missed this, that's why I sit in the front, because I can't hear. But the word is donated, was that protected devices or is there money donated?
Are you talking the vests?
Yes.
So money is donated to Donna with Wisconsin Vest a Dog. And then she has a priority list as far as people around the state that apply for these certain equipment items. And then she puts that money towards what needs to be purchased.
Very good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I think we have a resolution before us. And an explanation has been given. Are you ready to vote? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. I'm not gonna say anything. Okay. Resolution approving the fee schedule and a memorandum of understanding for vote data entry services. Mr. Kalish.
This will be resolution number 22-113. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that approval of the fee schedule and memorandum of understanding for WISVOTE data entry services is granted. Be it further resolved that the Richland County Board authorizes the county clerk to complete and sign all necessary agreements and documentation associated with said memorandums of agreement. And be it further resolved that this resolution shall be effective January 1st of 2023. And this resolution is being offered to you by the Finance and Personnel Standing Committee on October 4th.
You've heard the resolution. What's your pleasure? Mr. McKee. Seconded by Ms. Fleming. Okay, I'm gonna call on, Mr. Kalish to tell us about this.
Sure. So historically, the county has shouldered the burden of completing the required WISVOTE data entry duties at no charge for all the townships and villages after each election. With the reorganization of the county clerk's office, amongst other things, completing the WISVOTE data entry duties at no charge can and should no longer be done. Additionally, said data entry is actually a statutory duty of each municipality's, the municipal clerk, not the county. With this memorandum of understanding, municipalities can choose whether or not they would like to contract with Richland County to perform their required data entry duties, or if they would do it themselves. So what I've included in there is a fee schedule that's been created that is based on the number of registered voters within the municipality. This will be reviewed July of every year. The MOUs will be drafted annually with the applicable fee, and then they would be effective January 1st of 2023. So without going into a ton of detail, WISVOTE is the electronic management system in which all election data is entered into. So I'm not sure how the county came to do this at no charge. I've said this before. We are one of very few counties that do this at zero charge to each municipality, whether that's a city, village, or town. The city of Richland Center performs their own WISVOTE data entry duties, but the villages and townships do not. So this would be a added fee for them, but it would also offset the charge for the county clerk's office to do that, because what happens is this is, again, data entry that we do not have to do. I believe the county did it at some point when they switched voter registration systems or election management systems, and the county just took that burden on. So my proposition is that I'm happy to do that as a county clerk's office. However, to offset the cost it is for myself and my deputy to stay late to do this, we need to charge for these fees. I have consulted the fee schedules based on a population of plus or minus 2,000. I called all of those counties that have that population, tried my best to match up what they do versus what we do based on population. And the fee schedule that you see is the best I could get for what we have in similar counties. So this has been shared with the townships. I shared this with all the municipalities when we had our post-election meeting after the August election. I have at this point received 3 MOUs back that obviously I have not signed because they're not approved, but the municipalities that I've spoken with thus far have said that it's actually quite reasonable and fair, and they're happy to not perform those duties. So again, this is the point of the fee is to offset the cost it takes myself and staff to perform these duties on behalf of the municipalities when they're not statutorily our responsibility.
Okay. Sounds like the county's been doing a service here that it can no longer afford to do.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. C.
Yes, Mr. Kalish, will this more efficiently bring data to your office on election night for the normal posting that you do of election results and data?
I would certainly like to think so. If we are contracted to perform these duties, the quality of work will have to be improved a bit. This is actually outlined in the MOU, which is the prime reason for that section that says quality of work, because in order for us to do what we need to do, we will need to have information that is fully complete. So yes, Mr. Steve, that is my hope.
And as we know, elections are under closer scrutiny than they ever have been. So any way that we can shore up procedure is to be pursued. Okay, I think we have a first and a second. So all those in favor of this resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Mr. Kalish, you got it.
Thank you.
takes us to number 19, a resolution amending the Richland County Employee Handbook. Mr. Kalish, and I'm not going to ask you to read the entire handbook.
Okay, so this will be resolution number 22-114. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that the county's handbook of personnel policies are hereby amended by adopting the following underlined words and repealing the following crossed out words. Following that paragraph, you will see several pages of changes that will be reviewed. Be it further resolved that the resolution shall be effective immediately upon its passage and publication. And this is being offered to you by the Finance and Personnel Standing Committee on September 16th and October 4th.
Okay, we've heard the resolution. I'm going to ask for a first and a second to get it on the floor, and then I'll ask Administrator Langrick maybe to hit the high points. Mr. Cooey, and seconded by Ms. Boyce. And now, Mr. Langrick, can you tell us?
For brevity's sake, starting at the top, your insert administrator policy cover is in compliance with our adopted standard policy format that we want to use. It iterates authority is given to finance and personnel to make changes to the policy with the exception language that we'll cover here in just a second. As per section 1, definitions are stricken. The definitions in there are your, it's the list, kind of your authorization table, your different position descriptions. We're striking it from the handbook because it is appearing also in the classification, compensation, and an authorization policy and a separate policy, so it's redundancy in having it in this book as well as that other policy. Underneath the extent of the handbook, I want to draw your attention to, as I just mentioned, the Finance and Personnel Committee shall have final authority over all matters set forth in this handbook, except the Finance and Personnel Committee shall make recommendations to the county board on all matters relating to salary levels, position reclassifications, and the creation or elimination of positions, the final decision on which shall be made by the county board. So those things are being retained by this body and withheld from finance and personnel. The line at the end there is stricken for sake of redundancy. Moving into section 3, the pay period reflects our current practice in which we're doing. Accidents and injuries is again in better compliance and better practice and better compliance with reporting for workers' compensation types of claims. Leave of absence, again, puts some more clarity to it. Extensions to be written to the administrator. Section 13 is a clarity item on adding all time cards have to be turned in at the end of each pay period, or if by monthly, by the end of the month. Switching into page 2, and I apologize as I'm taking notes. My notes are on one document and I'm scrolling on the other. Page 2, health insurance. This is a change, and this is to meet ACA, Affordable Care Act regulations and guidelines of what equates to a full-time position, and then also adjusting then for our part-time positions as well. In section 7, you'll see some changes there for clarities. In section 9 with compensatory time, it's the intent there is to kind of clear our books in the case where employees transfer to a position that does not qualify for minutes, then compensatory time will be paid out. If we didn't do that, we had like lingering compensatory time then of what do you do with it? Do you wait to see potentially if they switch back into a compensatory type of capacity? Section 10 is stricken for cleanup purposes. Section 11 is for clarity. Section 12 with vacation sick leave donation is a further clarification in defining from 3 sick days to 24 sick hours. Vacation is a change, as discussed through finance and personnel. This is seen as a recruitment and retention change where we're trying to push more allocation of benefit time to new employees, as well as increasing or decreasing the amount before folks reach the top of the schedule. So that is an increase again for sake of retention and recruitment. There's an added line there in that middle paragraph where it goes into saying vacation must be used within 18 months. You'll see the added line of employees that have reached 15 years of service mark will receive a payout of up to 1 week that is not used by 18 months. So this is kind of seen as also a way to reward longevity and ensuring employees that perhaps are receiving 5 weeks of vacation but are unable to use that for sake of operation still realize some benefit from that. Moving down into the bottom of that section, the added language of employees will have not passed probation will not receive payout of vacation. This is added as kind of an accommodation or of a check because we are now pushing 1 week of benefit time off to new employees at a date of hire. If we hire somebody and then we're finding out that's not working in a probationary period and terminating them, we're not liable then to pay that benefit time out. Moving into section 14, clarity. Underneath that, the hiring for long-term vacancies of 90 days or longer, some cleanup language on the posting. The bottom of this page here, you'll see department head shall have ability to make recommendation to administrator requesting variances. This is seen as kind of another recruitment type of an amendment here. It's to allow us to grant discrepancies for vacation accruals and such based on trying to recruit in midterm or mid-career employees. Moving into probation period on the following page, you'll see some more clarity on county employees who are offered a new position with the same department where their work will serve a probationary period. This is a practice that is for the most part in place, so looking to clarify that with the language. Underneath section 8 concerns, again, intent there is to add more clarity. Moving down into the bottom of that page underneath meals, you'll see some clarity, but then you'll also see reflected of changes in committee structure, and that kind of puts out on the expense of vouchers by the auditing team versus committee. When we changed our organization of committees, we no longer have an audit committee, and that is a function now performed administratively by myself, Clerk Kalish, and our staff of support. And then the items on the last page with status change, notification of absence, and jury duty, again, are kind of for sake of clarity. Mr. Chair.
And I know that these changes have been gone over with department heads. I know that. And I don't think you received any strenuous objections. So it's before us. It's bringing things up to date. It's making some changes. It's making it hopefully easier to hire people. It's not easy, but we've got to make some changes. Carrie Severson.
I have a question, Mr. Chair, on number 8, leave of absence. Good, to get some clarification, would the employee be allowed to pay their health and dental insurance premium after they have exhausted their Wisconsin Family Medical or Family Medical?
I'll defer to Administrator Langren.
Can I restate that one more time, sir?
So would the employee, after having exhausted Wisconsin Family Medical or Family Medical leave of absence, could they pay their portion of the health and dental insurance premium without using their sick time or vacation time? And say, hey, I don't want to use up my vacation, I don't want to use my sick time, because I want to save it because I'm a new employee. Let's say I only got 2 weeks, I have a vacation plan later on. I've exhausted all my Wisconsin medical. Can I still just make the premium without having to use my vacation time or sick time to make that premium?
There's allowance to, there's ability to allow folks to use their compensations and come back and pay for it because you're going to have new employees that aren't going to have anything built up.
Right, that's what I'm getting at.
Yes.
So they'd be able to pay out of pocket instead of using up their vacation time or comp or sick time, whatever that is.
Where we're going to require folks to use their benefited time off when they're on FMLA, with the exception of 2 weeks that you're allowed through the state FMLA versus the federal FMLA. So that's kind of the first part of it. There could be situations, and there's always, exceptions to everything of how things fall. It would also depend on the length of FMLA. It's important to remember that FMLA is your protector of your position, and it's not like a benefited time off. Past an FMLA, if it's using the full 12 weeks of federal authorized FMLA, then they're going to have to be entering into a process of requesting then a leave of absence. They've expended all their time.
That's where I'm getting at. If they've requested that leave of absence, are they still able to pay out of pocket instead of the county paying for that premium? Are the employee able to pay out of pocket and still be able to kind of retain their job yet?
I have to look on the leave of absence. There's one other section here. Can I get back to you on that one? I don't think this reflects on that, but I can get back to you if there's a reason for a further amendment. I can bring that to your attention.
And that's certainly true. We can further amend this. You can bring it to Finance and Personnel at our next meeting on November 1st, if you want to, Carrie. But I think for the purpose of moving along in the meeting, we'd better ask for a vote on the changes to the personnel handbook, county employee handbook, excuse me. Well, I think we have a motion, don't we?
Yes, we do. We do.
Yes, we do, but thank you. So all those in favor of the amended version of the Richland County Employee Handbook signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, and sir, this is I don't want to sound corny, but it's a living document. I mean, it's subject to change. It's not etched in granite, but one of the things that I noticed when I became a county supervisor, it seemed that there wasn't a uniform policy in many situations. And it almost appeared to be not who you knew, but maybe the squeaky wheel gets the grease. I don't know, but we needed to codify a lot of our procedures so the employee knows where he or she stands and has a place you can actually look it up. So I'm all for this. Okay, thank you. Number 20, a resolution relating to the county's contribution to the cost of town highway bridge construction required by Wisconsin statute, section 8208.
Mr. Chair, I don't think we voted on 19, did we?
No, we didn't. Didn't we?
We have a first by Cooey, a second by Voice.
But did we do a final vote?
No.
Oh, okay, let's vote on it then.
No, we,
I thought we
yeah,
did.
we just did. We just
Did
did.
we?
Yeah.
Over the recording. Okay, it's good. Oh, you know, we've been here.
I have MC for motion carried, so I believe we did.
I'm sorry, Mr. Brook.
All right, thank you.
You can't vote twice.
Yeah. Only you can vote twice, Mr. C. Okay. Mr. Kalish, the resolution on the bridges, please.
This will be resolution number 22-115. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that the county shall pay the following amounts as financial aid for the following bridge or culvert projects in the following towns as mandated by Wisconsin statutes, section 82.08. In the town of Forest, Knable Hollow Drive at a cost of $12,216.84, and the amount of county aid granted $6,108.42. In the town of Ithaca, Munns Lane, we have $11,532.70. Amount of county aid granted $5,766.35. In the town of Westford, Happy Hollow Drive, total cost $12,653.46. An amount of county aid granted $6,326.73. That gives you a total of $36,403, with the amount of county aid being granted at $18,201.50. Be it further resolved that this resolution shall be effective immediately upon its passage of publication and is being offered to you by the Public Works Standing Committee on October 13th.
You've heard the resolution. What's your pleasure? Mr. McKee? Second by Mr. Manning. And any comments back there, Mr. Elder? I'll give you a chance here to take the floor.
So again, this is a statuted function. So basically, whenever any township within Richland County wants to replace a culvert that's over 6 foot in diameter, they have a right to come to the highway department to apply for 50% of the cost reimbursement for the installation of that culvert. A lot of times they'll have us do the work and install a culvert, and then the following fiscal year, they'll receive that reimbursement.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, you've heard the resolution and the explanation. And all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We have 2 culverts. I imagine these are all culverts, I would guess. Probably not too many bridges here. Okay. A resolution approving construction of an outside shelter at Pine Valley. Mr. Kalish.
Resolution number 22-116. Now therefore be it resolved that Pine Valley be granted approval to enter into a construction agreement with Salisbury Construction LLC from Richland Center, Wisconsin for an amount of $86,000. Be it further resolved that the FOGO funds remaining after funding the balance of the construction will be utilized for future enhancements to the shelter, and be it further resolved that this resolution shall be effective upon its passage and publication, and this is being offered to you by the Finance and Personnel Standing Committee on October 4th.
You've heard the resolution. What's your pleasure? Mr. Williamson, seconded by McKee. Thomas here, want to talk about it? Self-explanatory. They needed an outside shelter really critically during the COVID crisis and didn't really have one. Put up some temporary tents, I remember, blue ones. And it's being funded, I can't remember. How's it being funded, Tom? Yeah,
Through the FOGO funds,
The
a
FOGO
donation that was
right.
made.
The FOGO funds, yep. So, something we need. All those in favor of this resolution approving construction of the outside shelter at Pine Valley, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution is adopted. Number 22, a resolution approving 2023 Health and Human Services revenue contracts. Mr. Kalish.
This will be resolution number 22-117. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that approval is hereby granted for the Health and Human Services Board to enter into the following revenue contracts for 2023. They are all listed there on the resolution, so I will not read them individually. Be it further resolved that the Health and Human Services Board is hereby authorized to amend any of the above contracts by not more than 15%. Be it further resolved that the Director of the Health and Human Services Department, Ms. Tricia Clements, is hereby authorized to sign the above contracts on behalf of Richland County in accordance with this resolution. And be it further resolved that this resolution shall be effective immediately upon its passage and publication. And this is being offered to you by the County Board members of the Health and Human Services and Veteran Standing Committee on October 13th.
You've heard the resolution. What's your pleasure? Mr. Williamson, Mrs. Lang, or Glassbender? Langrick? I don't know where that came from. Langrenner? I'm not sure what I was gonna say there. Okay, we have the, a motion and approval, and is Trish still here, or I saw her earlier? Yes, she is.
So these are our revenue that we have coming in that runs our budget year to year and provides the services. Any questions on anything?
Any questions? I hear murmuring out there. Are you asking each other, or we got Tricia here, we should ask her if we have a question.
No, I was just, saying to Supervisor Cooey, can we make it 6 million?
The okay.
I have a question.
Place here, where are we? Number 23, right?
We're on 22.
22, all right.
Marty, you have a question?
Yes, Mr.
So
Rank.
on the listing here, you've got the home delivered meals, under Wisconsin, under Care Wisconsin, is dropped $50,000. Is there home delivered meals, we're not getting reimbursed for that anymore, or what's the difference there?
What has happened is because a lot of frozen meals instead of the fresh meals, the managed care organization decided not to work with us and have other ways to feed their members.
Okay, thank you.
But we'll still be able to continue the service to other people, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, okay. So we're not dropping the service, just their revenue. All right, all those in favor of the resolution approving the revenue contract signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed. Okay, Tricia, just stay where you are. Number 23, a resolution approving provider contracts for 2023 for the Health and Human Services Department. Mr. Kalish.
This will be resolution number 22-118. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that approval is hereby granted for the Health and Human Services Board to enter into the following provider contracts for 2023. Again, they're all listed there for you in the resolution. Be it further resolved that the Health and Human Services Board is hereby authorized to amend any of the above contracts by not more than 15%. Be it further resolved that the Director of Health and Human Services Department, Ms. Tricia Clements, is hereby authorized to sign the above contracts on behalf of Richland County in accordance with this resolution. And be it further resolved that this resolution shall be effective immediately upon its passing and publication, and is again being offered to you by the county board members of the Health and Human Services and Veterans Standing Committee on October 13th.
You've heard the resolution. What's your pleasure? Mrs. Gentis, seconded by Mrs. Glassbrenner. And Tricia, little explanation here, please.
So these are contracts that we enter into to provide services to the children and adults that we work with through HHS.
Great. Anyone have any questions, concerns? Seems like a lot of money, doesn't it? Okay. These are authorizing them to spend up to these amounts. They don't have to spend this much, okay? Usually they don't. Rather than come back to us every time we do this. All those in favor of these proposed contracts, that will be contracts, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. And are you speaking on the next thing too? Okay. Number 23, 24. Richland County is participating in a state program providing specialized transportation assistance. Mr. Kalish.
This would be resolution number 22-119. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that the Richland County Department of Health and Human Services and its director are hereby authorized to prepare and submit to the Wisconsin Department of Transportation an application for assistance during 2023 under Wisconsin statute section 85.21 in accordance with the requirements issued by the Department of Transportation, and the county board also authorizes the obligation of county funds in the amount needed in order to provide the required local match. Be it further resolved that the sum of not less than $15,978 of the amount budgeted for transportation funds for the Department of Health and Human Services transportation account in the 2023 Richland County budget shall be used as approximately 20% matching county cost share portion of this program for specialized transportation assistance, which county contribution will enable Richland County to receive the $79,889 grant, which has been allocated to Richland County for 2023 by the Wisconsin DOT in accordance with Wisconsin statute section 85.21. Be it further resolved that the director of the Department of Health and Human Services, Ms. Tricia Clements, is hereby authorized to execute a state aid contract with the Wisconsin Department of Transportation under Wisconsin statute section 85.21 on behalf of Richland County. Be it further resolved that this resolution shall be effective immediately upon its passage and publication, and is once again being offered to you by the county board members of the HHS and Veterans Standing Committee on October 13th.
Thank you. You've heard the resolution. What's your pleasure out there? Mr. Reddish, seconded by Mr. Williamson. Ms. Clements.
So these funds are used to support our minibus and our volunteer driver program, and it allows individuals in the community without transportation to be able to socialize, get to medical appointments, do their shopping, and it keeps them from being socially isolated.
Yes, everyone's seen the bus. Seems like good use of matching funds here. In fact, more than matching. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you, Ms. Clements, and thank you. Thank all of you. Thank you to all department heads who stayed behind to talk to us. I do appreciate that. Number 25, a resolution approving the Land Conservation Committee applying for and accepting a lake monitoring and protection grant from the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources. Mr. Kalish.
This will be resolution number 22-120. Now therefore be it resolved by the Richland County Board of Supervisors that approval is hereby granted to the Land Conservation Committee to apply for a lake monitoring and protection grant from the Wisconsin DNR in the amount of up to $9,578 to pay for staff time and supplies for aquatic invasive species projects in the county. Be it further resolved that the Richland County Land Conservation Department will meet the financial obligations necessary to fully and satisfactorily complete the project, and hereby authorize and empower the following employees to submit the following documents to the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources for the financial assistance that may be available. Those tasks and the authorized representative are listed there below. Be it further resolved that there is no county match required for this grant, and approval is hereby granted for the grant funds to be spent in accordance with the terms of the grant, and that County Conservationist Ms. Kathy Cooper is hereby authorized to sign on behalf of the county any documents needed to carry out this resolution. Be it further resolved that the applicant will comply with all local, state, and federal rules, regulations, and ordinances relating to the project and the cost share agreement, and that this resolution be effective immediately upon its passing and publication. This resolution is being offered to you by the Land and Zoning Standing Committee on October 3rd.
You've heard the resolution. Ms. Gentis, seconded by Mr. Manning. Is Kathy here? Kathy Cooper? There she is.
This is an annual grant we can apply for. It was 2 years ago was the first one, and it allows us to go out and try to recruit volunteers, which we haven't had a hard time doing. So if anybody's interested in doing like clean boats, clean water, say at a boat landing for a few hours, or going out and doing some be trained to do some detective work on seeing an invasive species. That's the type of thing is for we're replacing invasive species signs. We're in the process of, a couple of my staff have built and are putting and installing boot scrubber at a couple of our trout, where trout fishermen come in. I got my daughter and a few of her classmates to do some clean boats, clean water things the last couple weekends. So it's to prevent the spread of aquatic invasive species.
And we don't have a lot of lakes, but it's probably other water too, right?
Wetlands, streams, rivers, backwaters of the Wisconsin River.
Okay. Thank you. All those in favor of accepting this grant, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we got it. Number 27. No, number 26. A resolution regarding approval of Richland County 22 to 31 Land and Water Resource Management Plan. Mr. Kalish.
This will be resolution number 22-121. Now therefore be it resolved that the Richland County Board approves the 10-year Land and Water Resource Management Plan presented by the Land and Zoning Standing Committee. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution and a copy of the plan be provided to DATCAP for state approval. This resolution is being offered to you by the Land and Zoning Standing Committee on October 3rd.
You've heard the resolution. What's your pleasure? Mr. McGuire, are you making a motion?
I'm just hanging out.
Mr. McGee, seconded by Ms. Fleming. And I know Kathy's there. I've looked over this plan. Wow, it's pretty impressive.
It's something we have to, this is the third one I've done. Hopefully it's the last one I have to do. First one was 2002, second one was 2012, now 2022. I met with different citizens of different, Citizen Advisory Committee met with a group of several individuals from different walks of life to talk about what they thought resource concerns were in the county. And then I've had a technical advisory committee, which were like Extension, DNR, DACCAP staff, my staff, Natural Resources Conservation Service, to go through this, look at things, get their ideas and where we should go with it. And then I wrote the plan this summer, and then gave a draft to the committee. They looked it over. They had some suggestions, and then once that got done, I sent it to DNR and they added more things. And then came back to the committee on the 3rd. They approved it, and now Ms. Luck and I will be going to the State Land and Water Board first week of December. I don't remember which date it is. For their approval.
Okay, thank you. And I would urge all of you, if you didn't get a chance to go through this, do so, because not only are we talking about land use but it gives a historic background and shows us how the county is changing in more ways. I mean, we know a lot of things, but until you read this, you don't know everything. So I would urge you to do so. All right, all those in favor of adopting get the name right here. Land use and water resource management plan, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Thank you for all the work, you guys. Betty and Kathy. Number 27, a resolution to allow county staff to complete a project at the new emergency services building. Mr. Kalish.
Resolution number 22-122. Now therefore be it resolved that the Richland County Board of Supervisors hereby authorizes the staff of the Richland County Ambulance Service to complete the ceiling projects at an estimated cost of $4,000. Be it further resolved that this resolution shall be effective immediately upon its passage and publication. And this resolution is being offered to you by the county board members of the Joint Ambulance Committee that just met on October 24th.
Mr. Manning, are you making a motion? Thank you. Do I have a second? Mr. Gotcho. Mr. Gotcho. Okay, this demands some explanation, and I'm going to call on Administrator Langrick, I think, to tell us what's going on.
I think I'm on here. I see Director Gudgeon on WebEx. I don't know if Darren, if you're available to join in on here, otherwise I can explain what I know.
I'm available, Administrator Langberg.
Go ahead, Director Gudgeon. I didn't know you were on, so.
No, that's okay. So what we're presenting to you tonight, as many of you know, we've been working through trying to finish up the new remodeling project in the Emergency Services Building. And through this project, come to our attention that there was no, excuse me, just one moment. I'm sure you folks don't want to be hearing my dog barking. When the plans were drafted by the engineering group, they did not include a finished ceiling in the new addition. When the fire inspector came through, the building inspector came through, he stated that that was not acceptable, that the addition needed to have a ceiling that would prevent fire from going from the new addition into the existing building. We immediately reached out to both the contractor and the engineer to get an explanation as to why, first of all, this wasn't included in the plan, and secondly, go out and seek a subcontractor that could do the work. This started in August. In early September, the contractor that was chosen, Joe Daniels Construction, got back to us with another subcontractor that gave us a bid of $14,300 to complete the ceiling project, which immediately caught my eye was the fact that that seemed to be a irregularly large amount for the work that needed to be done. 22 sheets of 4x8 sheetrock installed shouldn't cost the county $14,300. So myself and Chairman McGraw immediately again then held a meeting with Joe Daniels Construction and our engineer, requesting for them to give us a detailed breakdown because it just seemed to be way too much for what we needed to be done. And again, we shared our displeasure in the fact that it was missed in the first place. After several weeks of going back and forth, we were not able to get a reasonable explanation from the subcontractor as to why it was going to cost $14,000 to complete this project. I then reached out to Administrator Langrick and Chairman McGraw and offered to do it in-house. We have 3 individuals who have construction background that are staff that have the ability to do this. We have the equipment that's going to be donated use to us from Miller Electric as far as the lift to be able to install it. Total cost of the drywall is only $452. Of course, there'll be paint, and we have the equipment to do the painting. So I estimate that we will be able to do this well under $4,000, but I wanted to give you some kind of an idea. Right now, it looks like materials are going to come in right around $1,200. Include the labor in that. We'll be able to do this project for approximately $12,500 less than what the subcontractor had shared with us. So per board rule, anytime there's a public project that we want to use in-house staff to complete, it has to come to you for a 3/4 vote.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Mr. Renish.
This is for Darren. You said you did ask the engineer and the contractor, Joe Daniels, why this wasn't part of it. Because obviously it was a code required thing. What was their reason that it was not on the original contract?
Well, Joe Daniels Construction came back, and even though they thought it was irregular, they didn't feel it was their place to bring it up. But it was actually brought up to us by the group that was doing the concrete work and the electrician. They went and got the building inspector who was in town and came to us. So then I went to the engineer and asked them, and the only explanation I got was that they missed it. And unfortunately, I don't want to go into great detail, but this was not the only thing that was missed. But this is the thing that's been keeping us from going in, because the building inspector will not sign off on it until we've met that code issue. So this is the most economical way to do it and get us in and get us done sooner.
Okay,
I wish I had a better explanation for you, Supervisor Renish. To say that I've been frustrated with that being missed is an understatement, but this is a solution that will save us a significantly amount of money and get us into that building and meet the code requirements sooner.
Okay, yes, Mr. McGuire. You making motion now? Yeah, I think we have a motion in a second.
Yes.
Question, Mr. McGuire.
Two questions. Number one, is this ceiling a fire rated ceiling? And if he has some unqualified people doing the work, will it be then to become a fire rated ceiling, which could be an insurance problem? And the other problem is the money that was settled on is such a small amount. Why wasn't there any contingency money to complete the project?
So to answer the first question, we ran this by not just the engineer and the contractor, but we ran this by the state inspector himself. His first name is Tracy. I apologize, I do not remember his last name. And we are following the specs that he gave us, which is 5/8 inch thick type X drywall with the appropriate mud, tape, and caulk to be used. So it will meet the requirements that Tracy wants as far as code issues, and he had no issue because hanging drywall is not a skill that requires a certification or a license. He had no issue with us doing it in-house. The second part, we do have contingency money, and we'll be using that to, pay for the materials. I just felt that it wasn't prudent for us to just sign off on a change order that, one, was missed, something that was missed by the contractor, and two, when that subcontractor isn't able to give us a breakdown as to why they've got $14,300 to do this, with $9,000 of it being in supplies, and I know the supplies are going to be less than that. I just thought it was wrong, so that's why I came up with this solution. I hope that answered your question, sir.
Yes, is there any other comment to be made, Administrator Langren? Anything?
I don't have any.
Okay.
I don't have any comments, Mr. Chair.
All right. Yes, Linda.
And I admire them for wanting to do it. I think it's a great idea, but usually when we have anyone doing contract work, they have to have proof of insurance for liability, and how do we handle that?
Right. Good question. Uh,
This is gonna be on our time and by our employees, so we're gonna be handling liability for any types of injuries.
Okay. Want to let them do it? If you do, signify by saying aye, but for God's sakes, be careful. 5/8 drywall is not light.
Well, I guess in my opinion, why would this be any different than if Randy was hanging drywall over in the courthouse?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's how I'd look at it as far as insurance and stuff. But to me, it sounds like a great idea. Thanks, Darren, for coming up with it.
I'd like to add too that we have Miller Electric has offered the use of their scissors lift. There'll be harnesses being used. We have a police officer in the city of Richland Center who ran a commercial construction business for many years in Colorado. He has come in and offered his services to provide insight and guidance at no charge, along with the drywall jack, I think it's called, and the tools to apply the tape and the mud on the seams.
Okay. Think we're ready to vote on this. Mr. McGuire?
I'm not satisfied with the answer on this, and I'm aware of the complications with fire-rated walls, fire-rated ductwork, and this is a very dangerous situation, and this could be, a lawsuit could be pending on this.
Okay.
Especially if somebody got hurt.
Yes. Mr. Rennish?
To me, the elephant in the room is here, we're spending $4,000 that an engineer and a contractor should have provided us in the beginning. So if they haven't been paid already, I would suggest that we hold back $4,000 and tell them, hey, we saved you $10,000 because you're going to charge us that to fix it. Just put that on record.
Okay, it's on record. Yeah. Care to comment on that, Darren?
I guess what I would have to do is defer back to have a conversation with Corp Counsel, review the contract with them. Again, I don't disagree with that. I think that we hired a firm to ensure that the work was going to be completed and meet the code standard, and now we're having to come back with this workaround. But I'd have to have that conversation with the Corp Counsel because I don't know all the ramifications of that. But I don't disagree with what Supervisor Renish is saying.
Corp Counsel has agreed to look at this whole situation, so it will be referred to Corp Counsel. But in the meantime, we got to get our ambulances in there. We can't do it until we get a ceiling in, so the boys have volunteered to step forward. So, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? No. Thank you. I think the motion carried with a objection. Okay. Amendment to Resolution 2289 authorizing participation in the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation Idle Sites Redevelopment Program Grant, Mr. Taylor.
So this will actually be a proposed amendment to a previously passed resolution 22-89, and I will defer to Administrator Langer, Economic Development Director Glassburner, who is present to review the resolution.
Okay, so gentlemen, either one.
So the changes in, you may remember, we had Pastor Dan in with the Rockridge Early Childhood Education and Daycare Center last month. We were moving forward in application for a grant for the idle sites. State of Wisconsin came back and said it may be more appropriate if you apply for the Community Development Investment Grant, which is like a partner type of a program. I think they gave us initial guidance to do this one, said change gears, do the idle sites ones. Contract or the application, everything was near complete and sent off. They said, well, no, wait, maybe go back and do the other one. The mechanics on it doesn't change. It's a different program. It has different kind of purpose language that's involved in here that you'll see the cross out in the underline. The county's liability and investment into the project remains the same. Did I capture it correctly? Director Bosberg? Thank you.
So basically, it's a different grant, but it's going to accomplish the same thing.
Correct.
Okay. And this is an amendment. So, all those in favor, did I get a motion?
We did not, we need a motion.
I need a motion. Mr. Frank, seconded by Mr. Gaccho. All those in favor of the amended motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Appointments to various boards, commissions, and committees. Administrator Langreck.
Mr. Chair, for your consideration tonight, I recommend appointments to the Nutrition Advisory Council of Georgetta White and Virginia Wiedenfeld, to the Coordinated Service Team Coordinating Committee, Alicia Woodhouse and Teresa Nundahl, and then to the Comprehensive Community Services Coordination Committee, Teresa Nundahl. Mr.
Okay,
Chair.
I'll take a motion to approve all of those recommendations.
I so move, Mr. Chairman.
I'll let you second, Don. Mr. McKee got it. All those in favor of these appointments signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Do you have anything to add to your report that you gave us when we contemplated the budget, Administrator Langreck?
Please be advised, folks, the next ad hoc committee is going to be on Monday night, the 31st, Finance and Personnel next Tuesday, the 1st, and then Rules and Strategic Planning on the 3rd, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. I had some correspondence, but I've misplaced it, so. I heard from a community member urging us to take a lot into consideration, so I'll make sure you get copies of that. All right. We're down to number 32. Do I have a motion? Mr. Manning? Seconded by Mr. McGuire. All those in favor of adjourning to November or December. Yeah, right. We don't have a meeting in November.
No meeting in November, second Tuesday in December.
Second Tuesday in December, which would be
13th, I believe.
December 13th. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye, Mr. Chairman, I won't need a ride tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Steve. Should I have one for you here?